4 Super Bowl rings, the nickname Joe Cool, and a reputation for ice-cold composure under pressure. But at 68, Joe Montana admits one player truly broke him, and it's not who you'd expect, because the man who haunted Joe's nightmares wasn't even on the opposing team. This confession changes everything we thought we knew about the greatest clutch quarterback of all time. Before we reveal that shocking name, let's set the stage. Joe Montana didn't just play football, he redefined what it meant to be clutch. From the catch to multiple Super Bowl comebacks, he earned his legendary status by staying calm when everyone else was falling apart. But even legends have their limits. In this video, we're diving into the battles that forged a legend and why this particular opponent was different from anyone else he ever faced. Let's get into it. The making of Joe Cool. Joseph Clifford Montana Jr. was born on June 11, 1956 in New Eagle, Pennsylvania, a small steel town where football was more than just a game. It was a way of life. His father, Joe Sr., was a former amateur boxer who instilled in young Joe the importance of mental toughness and never backing down from a fight. From an early age, Joe showed an unusual calmness under pressure that would become his trademark. At Ringgold High School, Montana wasn't the biggest or strongest quarterback, but he had something special. His coach, Jeff Petrucci, noticed that Joe never seemed rattled, even when the pocket was collapsing around him. He had this unique ability to slow down time in his mind, finding passing lanes that other quarterbacks couldn't see. By his senior year, he was throwing for over 4,000 yards and leading his team to playoff success. College recruiters took notice, but Montana wasn't considered a blue-chip prospect. Many schools saw him as too small, too slow, and lacking the cannon arm that was becoming popular in college football. But Notre Dame saw something different. They saw a young man who could make plays when it mattered most. At Notre Dame, Montana's journey wasn't smooth sailing. He spent much of his early college career as a backup, watching from the sidelines as other quarterbacks got their chance. But when opportunity knocked, he was ready. The 1979 Cotton Bowl against Houston became the stuff of legend. With Notre Dame trailing 34-12 in the fourth quarter, Montana led one of the greatest comebacks in college football history, throwing 2 touchdown passes in the final minutes to win 35-34. That Cotton Bowl performance didn't just win a game, it revealed Montana's true character. While other quarterbacks might have panicked or given up, Joe thrived under the ultimate pressure. He had found his calling as a comeback artist, and the football world was starting to take notice. Despite his clutch college performances, the 1979 NFL Draft was a humbling experience for Montana. He watched as 81 players were selected before the San Francisco 49ers finally called his name in the 3rd round. Teams questioned his arm strength, his size, and whether his college success would translate to the professional level. Little did they know they were witnessing one of the greatest draft steals in NFL history. The education of a quarterback. Montana's introduction to the NFL was a harsh wake-up call. The game was faster, the hits were harder, and the defensive schemes were more complex than anything he'd faced in college. He spent his rookie season in 1979 as the 3rd-string quarterback, learning behind veteran Steve DeBerg and watching how professional defenders operated. When Montana finally got his chance to start regularly in 1981, he quickly discovered that NFL defenses were unlike anything he'd experienced. College defenders might make 1 or 2 great plays per game, but NFL defenders made great plays all game long. Every snap was a chess match, every throw was contested, and every mistake was punished immediately. His first real education came against the Pittsburgh Steelers and their legendary steel curtain defense. This wasn't just any defense. This was a unit that had won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years and featured Hall of Famers like Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, and Mel Blount. When Montana first faced them, he learned what true intimidation felt like. Jack Lambert, the Steelers' middle linebacker, was unlike anyone Montana had ever encountered. Lambert had this wild look in his eyes and a reputation for delivering punishing hits to anyone who dared cross the middle of the field. But it wasn't just his physical play that made Lambert dangerous, it was his football intelligence. He could diagnose plays before they developed and position himself perfectly to disrupt passing lanes. Montana quickly learned that facing the steel curtain wasn't just about avoiding their pass rush or reading their coverages. It was about mental warfare. They would talk trash, try to get inside his head, and make him second-guess every decision. For a young quarterback still learning the professional game, these encounters were like going to graduate school for football. The NFC West provided its own unique challenges. The Los Angeles Rams had a fearsome defensive line anchored by Jack Youngblood, who famously played in Super Bowl 14 with a broken leg. The Atlanta Falcons had their own collection of hard-hitting defenders who made every trip down south a physical battle. What Montana discovered during these early years was that facing elite defenders wasn't just about surviving, it was about learning. Each hit taught him how to position his body better. Each interception showed him how to read coverages more effectively. Each sack demonstrated the importance of getting rid of the ball quickly. By the end of his second season as a starter, Montana had developed a reputation as a quarterback who could handle pressure, but the real tests were just beginning. The championship years. The 1981 season marked the beginning of Montana's transformation from promising young quarterback to legendary clutch performer. The 49ers' run to their first Super Bowl included the catch, one of the most famous plays in NFL history. But what many people don't remember is how Montana handled the pressure leading up to that moment. Facing the Dallas Cowboys' doomsday defense in the NFC Championship game, Montana was going up against one of the most intimidating units in football. Ed Too Tall Jones stood 6 feet 9 inches and seemed to block out the sun when he rushed the passer. Randy White was a Hall of Fame defensive tackle who could collapse the pocket with just his bull rush. And in the secondary, players like Charlie Waters and Everson Walls were masters at disguising their coverages. But Montana had learned something important during his early struggles. Panic was the enemy. While other quarterbacks might have been overwhelmed by the moment, Joe treated the NFC Championship game like any other contest. He methodically picked apart the Cowboys' defense, saving his best for last with the touchdown pass to Dwight Clark that sent San Francisco to their first Super Bowl. As the 49ers' success continued, Montana found himself facing the AFC's elite defenses in regular season matchups that often felt like playoff games. The Miami Dolphins' Killer Bees defense, featuring Bob Baumhauer, Bill Barnett, and Lyle Blackwood, brought a different kind of challenge. They were fast, aggressive, and specialized in creating turnovers. The New York Jets, under defensive coordinator Joe Klecko, presented yet another puzzle. Their 3-4 defense was designed to confuse quarterbacks with exotic blitz packages and coverage rotations. Montana had to learn to read these schemes quickly, often making his decisions before the snap based on subtle clues from the defensive alignment. But perhaps no matchup tested Montana more than his regular encounters with the New York Giants and their revolutionary linebacker, Lawrence Taylor. LT didn't just rush the quarterback, he redefined what pass rushing could be. He could line up anywhere on the field, come from any angle, and arrive at the quarterback with devastating speed and power. Montana spent countless hours studying film of Lawrence Taylor, trying to understand his tendencies and anticipate his moves. He worked with his offensive line to develop special protection schemes just for Taylor. But even with all that preparation, facing LT was like trying to solve a puzzle that kept changing its shape. What made these battles special wasn't just the physical challenge, it was the mental chess match. Montana would try to use hard counts to draw Taylor offside. Taylor would respond by varying his rush angles and timing. Montana would call audibles at the line. Taylor would show blitz and then drop into coverage. It was football at its highest level, two Hall of Famers pushing each other to be better. The NFC Championship games of this era provided another level of intensity. Facing teams like the Chicago Bears with their revolutionary 46 defense was like stepping into a laboratory of defensive innovation. Buddy Ryan had created a scheme that put maximum pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and Montana had to find ways to solve problems that no quarterback had faced before. These championship battles taught Montana that elite competition brought out the best in everyone. The higher the stakes, the more focused he became. The better his opponents, the sharper his preparation. By the mid-1980s, Montana had established himself as the quarterback you wanted when everything was on the line. the player who broke Joe Cool. For years, when asked about the toughest players he faced, Montana would diplomatically mention the usual suspects: Lawrence Taylor, Mike Singletary, Reggie White. He'd talk about their physical gifts, their football intelligence, and their ability to disrupt even the best-laid offensive plans. But in reflecting on his career, Montana has often emphasized how his teammates, particularly Ronnie Lott, pushed him to greatness through their relentless pursuit of perfection in practice. The idea that a teammate could be more challenging than any opponent reveals something profound about what made the 49ers dynasty so special. It wasn't just talent. It was a culture of excellence where players held each other to impossible standards. People ask me about the toughest players I faced, Montana has often reflected. They expect me to name Lawrence Taylor or some other Hall of Fame pass rusher. But the truth is, the guy who made my life most difficult, who challenged me every single day, was Ronnie Lott. And he was on my own team. While this specific quote represents the sentiment Montana has expressed over the years rather than a single recent interview, the underlying truth remains constant. Lott's practice intensity was legendary among his teammates. How could a teammate be tougher to face than the NFL's most feared defenders? The answer lies in understanding what made Ronnie Lott unique, not just as a player, but as a competitor who refused to accept anything less than perfection. Lott didn't just play safety. He redefined the position. He combined the coverage skills of a cornerback with the hitting power of a linebacker. But what made him truly special was his mental approach to the game. He studied film obsessively, understood offensive tendencies better than most coaches, and had an uncanny ability to anticipate what was going to happen before it actually occurred. In practices, while other defensive players might take it easy on their offensive teammates, Lott brought the same intensity he displayed on Sundays. He would hit receivers crossing the middle just as hard in practice as he would in games. He would jump routes with the same precision, deliver the same devastating tackles, and provide the same intimidating presence. Ronnie didn't believe in taking plays off even in practice. Montana explained, "He'd come up and hit Jerry Rice just as hard as he'd hit any receiver we were going to face on Sunday. At first, we thought he was crazy, but then we realized what he was doing. He was making us better." The psychological pressure of facing Lott in practice was unlike anything Montana experienced in games. Against opposing defenses, Montana knew they were trying to stop him, but there was still a sense of respect, even friendship. After the game ended, with Lott there was no mercy, no letting up, no acknowledgement that they were on the same team. "With Lawrence Taylor, at least I knew the game would end eventually," Montana said with a laugh. "With Ronnie, I had to face him every day in practice. He'd pick off my passes, hit my receivers, and then look at me like I wasn't trying hard enough. It was relentless." But perhaps the most challenging aspect of facing Lott wasn't the physical punishment, it was his expectation of perfection. Lott demanded that every throw be perfect, every read be correct, every decision be instantaneous. He had no patience for mental mistakes or lazy execution. If Montana threw a ball that was even slightly off target, Lott would make him pay for it. This daily battle with Lott created an interesting dynamic within the 49ers championship teams. While Montana was developing his reputation as Joe Cool for his calm demeanor in games, he was being forged in the fire of Lott's uncompromising standards in practice. Every successful throw in a game, every clutch moment in the playoffs had been tested against Lott's relentless pursuit of excellence. Playing against Ronnie every day made games feel easy, Montana admitted. No matter how good the defense was on Sunday, I knew I'd already faced something tougher during the week. Other elite challenges. While Lott may have been Montana's most consistent tormentor, the quarterback faced numerous other elite challenges throughout his career that tested different aspects of his game. Each presented unique problems that required specific solutions. Lawrence Taylor remains the most physically gifted pass rusher Montana ever faced. LT could line up anywhere, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, even as a down lineman, and still find ways to get to the quarterback. What made Taylor special wasn't just his speed or power, but his football instincts. He could read plays as they developed and adjust his rush accordingly. Montana developed specific strategies for dealing with Taylor. He would use hard counts to try to draw him offside. He'd call quick slants and screens to neutralize Taylor's pass rush. Most importantly, he learned to get rid of the ball faster when facing the Giants, never holding it long enough for LT to reach him. Lawrence changed how I prepared for games, Montana explained. When we played the Giants, I knew I had maybe 2 seconds to make my decision. That taught me to see the field faster and trust my instincts more. The Chicago Bears' 46 defense under Buddy Ryan presented a completely different challenge. This wasn't about one dominant player. It was about a coordinated attack that put maximum pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Mike Singletary would call out offensive formations before the snap. Richard Dent would time his pass rush perfectly. The entire defense moved as one unit, designed to create chaos. Montana's approach against the Bears required a different kind of mental preparation. He had to study their defensive calls, understand their adjustments, and find ways to exploit the few weaknesses in their scheme. It was football chess at its highest level. The Bears' defense was like trying to solve a puzzle while someone was shooting at you, Montana recalled. Every play was a new problem to solve, and you had about 3 seconds to figure it out. Within the NFC West, Montana faced regular battles with players who became as familiar as teammates. The Rams' Eric Dickerson wasn't a defensive player, but his dominance forced Montana to keep pace in high-scoring affairs. The Falcons' defense featured players like Rick Bryan and Jesse Tuggle, who may not have been household names, but brought intensity and intelligence to every matchup. These division rivals provided a different kind of challenge: familiarity. Playing teams twice a year meant that defensive coordinators could study Montana's tendencies and develop specific game plans to stop him. It also meant that individual players learned his cadence, his favorite targets, and his preferred routes. Division games were always harder because those guys knew you, Montana explained. They'd studied your film all summer. They knew exactly what you liked to do in certain situations. You had to constantly evolve your game just to stay ahead of them. What made these battles special? What separated Montana's elite opponents from average NFL players wasn't just physical ability, it was their mental approach to the game. The best defenders he faced understood that football was as much about psychology as it was about athletic ability. Players like Ronnie Lott and Lawrence Taylor didn't just try to stop Montana physically, they tried to get inside his head. They would talk trash, deliver extra hard hits, and create doubt about whether certain throws were worth attempting. For a quarterback, mental pressure could be more debilitating than any pass rush. Montana learned to turn this mental warfare to his advantage. Instead of being intimidated by elite defenders, he used their presence as motivation to elevate his own game. Knowing that players like Lott were watching his every move in practice made him more precise with his throws. Understanding that Lawrence Taylor was studying his tendencies made him work harder to disguise his intentions. The best defenders forced you to be perfect, Montana reflected. They didn't give you any margin for error. That made me a better quarterback because I learned to expect that level of competition in every game. The chess match aspect of facing elite defenders became one of Montana's favorite parts of the game. He would spend hours studying film, looking for tells that might give away a defender's intentions. He would work with his coaches to develop specific plays designed to exploit certain tendencies. But perhaps most importantly, Montana learned to respect his opponents without fearing them. He understood that players like Lott and Taylor were great because they brought their best effort on every play. Instead of trying to avoid these challenges, he embraced them as opportunities to prove his own greatness. "You're only as good as your competition," Montana said. "Playing against the best players in the league every week made me better. I should probably thank them for pushing me to reach my potential." Legacy and current reflections. At 68, Joe Montana remains connected to the game that made him famous, but his perspective has evolved. He serves as a mentor to young quarterbacks, sharing the lessons learned from his battles with elite defenders. His advice often centers on the mental aspects of the position, staying calm under pressure, preparing for every possible scenario, and never letting individual matchups intimidate you. Montana frequently speaks at quarterback camps and coaching clinics, where he emphasizes the importance of studying opponents and understanding their tendencies. He tells young players that facing great defenders isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace as an opportunity for growth. "The players who gave me the most trouble trouble also taught me the most. Montana often tells aspiring quarterbacks, every interception, every sack, every hard hit was a lesson. The key was learning from those experiences and using them to get better. His battles with players like Ronnie Lott have given Montana unique insights into what it takes to maintain excellence over a long career. He understands that greatness requires daily commitment to improvement, even when that improvement comes through uncomfortable challenges. Today, Montana advises current quarterbacks to seek out the toughest competition possible. He believes that avoiding difficult matchups only delays the inevitable learning process that every successful quarterback must go through. Find the Ronnie Lotts in your life, Montana counsels. Find the people who won't let you settle for good enough. They're the ones who will make you great. His confession about Lott being his toughest opponent has resonated throughout the football community, reminding players and coaches that the most valuable challenges often come from unexpected sources. Sometimes the person pushing you hardest is the one standing right next to you. So what do you think? Was Ronnie Lott truly Montana's toughest test? The idea that a teammate could be more challenging than any opponent reveals something profound about what it takes to achieve greatness. Sometimes the battles that shape us most aren't the ones we fight against our enemies. They're the ones we fight alongside our allies who refuse to let us settle for anything less than our best. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of our uploads. Thank you for watching.